From the art of the deal to keeping it real. Live from the Simply Vegas studios, it's The Power Move with John Gafford.
Back again for another episode of The Power Move, the podcast where, we try to help things along, try to make you better, try to help out the community, which is what we're doing today.
Success leaves clues.
All those things. And you may notice the Bulgarian mongoose gained some weight, got a bigger head. No, I'm just kidding. It's not the Bulgarian. The Bulgarian mongoose is living the life out in Hawaii, doing his thing, the hula dance and whatever else with his family. Sitting next to me in the hot seat, we will, is the Counselor Chris Connel. Counselor, how are you?
Sore.
We are sore.
You.
And we're going to talk sore because of me. Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a second. Joining us with us today in the studio is a friend of a friend that hit us up, had a good cause, and we wanted to have him in. His name is Steve Grammas. Did I say that right?
Grammas.
Yeah. Grammas. Steve Grammas. Steve is with the...
He went to Grimace school. He dressed up like
Grimace,
a purple hamburger.
A giant purple thing. Yeah, I went to school.
Not a grammar
that was the dig in elementary and middle school and that, hey, Grimace and...
Grimace, and that's what it was.
You got used to it. So
I hope you got over it because that cuts to the...
What organization do you represent?
So I've been with Metro Police for over 24 years. Mm-hmm. Currently, I'm the president of the Las Vegas Police Protective Association, which represents over 3,500 commissioned officers with Metro and the city of Las Vegas.
Yeah, and we're going to get into a very cool event today that you guys are throwing and putting on. And, we're going to dig deep into, I want to dig deep into just the current psyche of being a policeman anymore. I find every time I see something in the news, I find myself asking myself the question, why would anybody want to do that? So hopefully we're going to dig a little deep in the psyche of that today, and we'll get to that. But we got to catch everybody up on several things. First off, happy Mardi Gras. You guys won't be listening to this until tomorrow. Connell and I just got back from Mardi Gras. I took Connell to Mardi Gras for the first time. He got to ride in our parade, on our float. And if you had to pick, because, you're sitting in Colt's seat, so I'm going to go to the top 5. If you had to pick the top 5 things about going to Mardi Gras, what would they be?
Big Frida's playing Bigfoot at Tipitina's.
Big Frida's at Tipitina was solid. If you don't know who Big Frida is, she is about a 6'4" black transvestite who is the queen of New Orleans bounce music. I was trying to make sure that we got the entire genre of all of New Orleans, and I happened to see that she was playing at Tipitina's Uptown, and it was a good timing because it was right after a parade that was going to prevent us from getting from Uptown back downtown anyway, so it worked out. It was good stuff, and you loved it. So
absolutely.
That's number 5?
Big Friday? We're going in order. I would say all these things. So, being on that float was a pretty interesting experience. If you've never done it, I don't care what it is, just go do it.
Yeah.
Go be on that float, because I was telling John, rarely in life, I don't care what it is you do. You hit a home run in baseball, you get a touchdown in football, right? Which segues into what you want to talk about. But you do that and it feels great, right? You leave your game and it's 30 seconds of pure joy and excitement, and then your day goes on. This is 3 hours where you're like the Grinch who stole Christmas, but on his way back down the hill, and you're just
we were turning
handed stuff out.
Great way to put it.
It is, and you're on like a ramshackle sleigh.
Okay, first of all, we just paid like $100,000 for that new float. It is not ramshackle. If you thought that was ramshackle, you should have seen the old ride.
It's made of plywood. It's not get Dose in here and get some Rolls Royce leather on it. But anyway, you get to be Santa Claus for 3 hours, and it's 3 hours. At the end of it, you're like almost out of serotonin.
Yeah, you're done.
You're like, I don't know if I can continue to be happy anymore. In fact, I think I need some misery in my life. But anyway, those are the 2 major takeaways. Obviously, some of the restaurants.
What's the rest of it? That's 2. You got 3 more you got to fill.
5. Okay. I really did enjoy getting down to some Your Mama's.
Oh, yeah.
Some Your Mama's jukeboxing was really cool.
Can we mention something you should just never do? Listen. I don't care who you are. Steve, let me ask you a question. Well, ask Steve. We're going to get to you, I promise. But I'm going to ask you this, right? So, me and Chris are like my favorite bar in New Orleans. And I don't feel like I'm in New Orleans till I'm in this bar with a drink in my hand and I play Stranglehold on said jukebox. I don't know why. It's just a thing that I do. And anyway, so we're sitting in this dirty bar that I love, and they have like the unlimited jukebox. You can kind of play anything. And me and Chris are just going toe for toe with like random genre, great awesomeness. And then in come the 20-something-year-olds from Virginia Beach on the bachelor party. Ugh. And they hijacked the jukebox using cell phone app, and they're paying over to skip our songs. That I don't have an issue with. That is capitalism at its finest. If you're willing to spread the money, play what you want. Here's where I have an issue. If you play the same song on a jukebox in a bar within 3 or 4 songs of each other, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
And you can't do that.
And if one of those songs is Barbie Girl by Aqua. Or
No. It was Cheeseburger in Paradise.
Oh,
if
yeah.
you recall.
It was.
And they kept playing. And every time they played it, you would think they'd never heard it. They blew up like it was the greatest thing ever. It was terrible.
It was shameful behavior.
It was shameful. All right, back to you. So that's now, where are we at? 3?
That's 3.
You got 2 more.
Is that 3?
2 more.
Oh, man. There was a lot of fun about bouncing around, watching the parades, watching Elvi, watching those guys come around the first night.
Yep.
By the time you were doing it the second, third night, your back is just barbecued.
Yeah. It's a lot of carrying. It's a lot of standing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of standing.
Times that. And then I think just the general camaraderie. Those are some good dudes.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun hanging out with them. And
yeah.
Just a lot of good stories with the group of guys that have been together for a long time together. So it's like that,
a connection.
Yeah,
experience.
It's very difficult to find a group of 15 to 20 pals that have just been pals forever. That is, of all my friend groups, if you're hearing this from Las Vegas or anywhere else you're listening to this from, and I'm in a friend group where you live, sorry, that friend group in New Orleans is like my favorite friend group because just the level of shit they give each other throughout the entire process is just magical.
Steve, you have friends. Would you feel like your friends cared about you if they took it easy on you?
No.
Like, Steve, you're looking great today.
You're looking great.
Yeah. What do you want? That's when I get that from my kids, that's what I usually say. Dad, you look nice today. What do you want?
That's it.
What the hell do I got to give you?
What's the compliment?
Yeah.
That's how it goes. That's how it goes. So that was the New Orleans recap. It was a great time. It was a great time. And I want to talk about one more thing before we get to Steve. This is my other segue thing today. Something happened. I was watching. I follow somebody here in town named Vegas Starfish is her handle, and she helps out my buddy Noel a lot, gives him a lot of favorable reviews. She just kind of cruises around Vegas and gives little quick reviews of things that happen here in Vegas. And this is what kind of happened, huh?
Jen.
Yeah. And this is what happened over the weekend. So she apparently went to some restaurant downtown in one of the hotels, gave it a favorable review, and then there's another guy who has like 10 million followers on TikTok. And he's a younger guy. He's like 24, 25. And he does these very just quick food reviews, man. It's what he does. He doesn't eat in the restaurants really from what I saw. He just kind of grabs the food and then eats it at home and then gives his opinion. And he used some of the footage that she had used saying she liked this restaurant. And he didn't care for it, right? He said, I don't like it. And I didn't think it was very good. Now, this cat is always really, really good. He's very careful always about saying, like, this is my opinion. Opinions vary. These are my taste buds. It is what it is. Right. But the dude's got 10 million followers. And so as soon as he didn't like this restaurant, all of these people turned on this restaurant and started going on like Google and smashing their reviews online. And like calling and trying to get the hostess fired and just doing all this crazy stuff. And then even attacking Jen, who's Vegas Starfish. Like, I can't believe you said the place was good. Like, and they have no frame of reference. And I started thinking about it, like, where is the line, or where's the responsibility lie?
Accountability.
Where's the accountability lie? If you're someone that's got, because literally, dude, like someone with 10 million followers on TikTok could put either one of us out of business for the sake of doing it.
You're gonna go after a lawyer and say what?
No. But they no. But here's the problem. If they decided to go on Chris Connel on Google and smash,
can you not plant seeds? John?
No. Don't do. Don't. This is terrible. It's terrible. Don't do it. But if they decided to go on and do that, and you had 400 one-star reviews, your business is screwed. You're done. And look, to this guy's credit, and I'm not blaming the influencer. I'm not blaming the influencer at all. He went on again and posted another video saying, "Listen, if you're doing this shit, you're no fan of mine. I don't condone this. This is not what this is about. This isn't the point of this. Don't do this." And it's like, I think you've got to have accountability as that influencer and understand that you could turn somebody's lights out that has worked very hard to build a business, and you could shut them out. And then, but also, at what point do they have responsibility for the mob mentality that they've monetized through social media?
So I don't think if you are out there saying it's my opinion and people like you and they turn on people, I mean, I think it's responsible when they say, "Hey, can you not do this? This is somebody's livelihood. This is clearly an opinion."
Yeah.
But Yelp is protected as freedom of speech. I know that very intimately. I've had a case on this that go up to the Supreme Court, and I won. It was about the right to have an opinion publicly, right? Now, you're allowed to have a public opinion, right? If you do something that's slanderous, you can't say something untrue. You can't not have done something, right? You can have an opinion. I think this guy's an asshole. You have that absolute opinion, right? And as a police officer, that comes up a lot, right? Someone can come up to you and say horrible things, and you're like, well, you have a right to have a public opinion, right? Sure. Even if it's in bad taste, even if I think you're a little dick, you have the right to do that legally, right? Now, people sue people over Yelp reviews. It's happened, right? And they get what's called slapped. It's a slap, strategic lawsuit against public participation. And what happens is you can be fined liable for their attorney's fees for having to come after you and defend that slap suit. So that's why Yelp, all these people, they just put their hands off. I'm an IP. I'm an internet service provider.
Independent third party.
Yeah, I'm an ISP. I'm all these things. And they do have a method of disputing 1-star reviews. You say these people never ate there. These people were never my clients or whatever. So that's the kind of the best you can do. You just have to depend on the civility of the average person. And I know people get really histrionic about that. They go, oh, everybody's nuts and crazy and the world's falling apart. The world is actually very well organized, and it's doing a lot better than people give it credit for, right? It's that we see the margins where people are nuts.
But isn't it kind of double-edged sword, that 1 million, 10 million followers? If I go to an establishment that everybody else said is no good, and I go and I say, actually, this is quite good, I've driven customers to them.
And
so
he's done that. No, he's done that.
I mean, it's the responsibility, though. It's both ways, right? Hey, if I'm going to go out there and call balls and strikes. If the place is good, the place is good. If the place is not good, in my opinion, now, like you said, we live in that same world, police work and me at the union. Whether it's a politician or anybody like that, I don't say you hate cops. I say it's my opinion that you don't like cops. And
Chris, why? It's so terrible. But no, I'm kidding. but again, all of this landed somewhere with me, and I'll tell you where it landed. I'm officially ending because a lot of people listen to this podcast, man. We get a lot of downloads, and I mean, in any given week, a 250,000 people are watching these clips running through Instagram and everything else that happens.
I know where this is going,
and so I'm officially, because I never know who's going to take it too far and do something.
No. I don't like what's
I'm
happening.
I'm letting it go.
I don't like this
I'm
at all.
officially ending the war with Chili's.
You know what that sounds like? I've officially given up.
No,
on my war against Chili's.
It's not that I've given up. It's not that I've given up. Here's what it is. There was the single mom that's waiting tables at Chili's in Salt Lake City did not make the decision to tow my car. Chili's. One bad human did. So why am I going to try to take food out of her mouth and punish her by continually bashing, even though you deserve it, Chili's?
There you go, John.
No.
That's the John I want to
listen. I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go because I don't want to hurt anybody in the peripheral with my year-long now war with Chili's. I don't want to do it. So I'm letting it go.
It's an inside joke.
It is a long war that I've had with Chili's.
It's a war he's lost. He thought he was going to be Russia.
Yeah.
He's hit the wall with Ukraine.
I've hit the wall.
Did I bring the right amount of guns?
Right, but here's the deal. I'm pulling the troops out as a humanitarian mission. Right. I am not admitting defeat on the battlefield. I'm merely, for the sake of humanitarian, for everybody else affected by the war with Chili's, I don't want them damaged.
Well, pull the troops out slowly. Don't take them all out at once.
I'm pulling them. No, I'm going to create a vacuum. If
that's what happens, a power vacuum. Them, all of a sudden, Moxie's or exactly. Capitol Grove.
No, if Applebee's moves in and takes the thing over, that's not my fault. I'm pulling out. I'm done. All right. Well, enough nonsense. Let's get to what we talked about today. So, Steve is with us from the police union, one of them. And we're going to get to with the event that you're throwing and why you're here and what you're trying to promote. But first, man, let's learn a little bit about you.
Sure.
And then I really, again, the reason I was fascinated about this, I love to help out the local causes whenever we can. We're for-purpose business here. We support a lot of local charities. And when I heard this, I was really interested. I'm like, man, that's going to be some good talk about police. Because every time I turn on the news and you see something, and look, I'm not saying that there's not good police, bad police, whatever else. But the point of the matter is literally if you're a police, you could make a decision in a split second. In a split second, you have to think about something that you could go to prison for the rest of your life. out trying to protect and serve. You know, some of the stuff we've seen lately where they hold the guy up while we beat him and then he dies 12 hours later, that's not what I'm talking about. That's way over the line. That's ridiculous. But the quick pull and I thought he had a gun and it was a mirror and I shot him and now I got to go like that stuff is, and the more of these out there, the harder that job is. So I want to get to the psyche of today's policemen. I want to get to, and police women. I want to get to what made you want to be a police. Let's start with you. So let's start. Tell me your back history. Where did you go to school? How did you grow up? What made you want to be a policeman?
Sure. So my dad was a police officer in New York. I was born in New York. And during his time in New York, he was the union president in the department he was with. Would come out to Vegas quite frequently with Whitey Ford and some old Yankee players. Yeah. And
I was thinking about Whitey Bulger. I'm like, whoa, what kind of cop was your dad?
Different town.
Different state, yeah.
So he told my mom, and he said, listen, I'm tired of the winters out here. I'm going to go be a cop in Vegas. Let's go. So he packed myself, my two brothers, and my sisters, and my wife or my mom up. And
I was like, how old were you?
Right.
What year was that?
1980. Yeah.
So Dad was Metro when let's just say there was no hedge funds running the casinos.
Yeah. My dad was a cop out here when being a cop out here was serious business. You didn't backtalk the police. You respected the police when they came around. Even gangbangers knew when the police rolled through. We didn't play games with the cops. You know, we knew our place, and while crime still occurred, cops enforced it well. Police work has evolved as it should, like everything as it should. You know, I'm sure my father, God rest his soul, did things that you would never do today. But it is what it is. So I grew up out here, played football since I was a kid. Was going to go to college and play football, but chose the police career. I joined the police department in 98, and I've been here for 24 plus years since I joined. I've worked undercover before I went to the union. I worked in narcotics. I was an undercover detective for about a year and a half. I had a great time here in this city in Henderson. I did deals out here all over town, and went to the union in 14, took over as president in 16, and that's where I've been ever since.
So you were bred for the job. I mean, it was just you were just around it. You saw it the whole time. So from 80, when your dad was there, was the job much different already when you got into the police force? And what would you say, 98? You said?
Sure. From when he started?
Oh no, yeah, in general.
Yeah. Oh God, the evolution of police work from the 80s to the late 90s. I mean, it was so much more policy, so much more rules and laws in place.
What do you think caused that?
Honestly, probably some bad police work.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we look at some things where corruption could run rampant and things like that. And like every profession, you know, bad employees, bad people in the profession ruin the profession for the future. But some of that stuff made us better as we recognized the things we were doing wrong. And I think even my father, like I said, up until, he passed away 3 years ago, but he'd always say, I couldn't be a cop in this day and age.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the work. Crime was still crime. Robberies were robberies, murders were murders. But the oversight, the scrutiny, and the attention that's focused on the police officer, the modern day police officer now, as opposed to back then. You didn't have phones, you didn't have cameras, you didn't have body cams.
A body cam.
They were entrusted to do the right thing, and sometimes they went astray. So,
do you think that
the old statement that's who will watch the watchman, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think? The first thing I can remember off the top of my head, where I was thinking about like there was bad police stuff, would be like the whole Serpico thing back in the 70s with all of the cops in New York. Do you think that bled throughout the country when that happened like that? Because a lot of people went down in that New York police force. You were from there. Was your dad, because your dad would have been leaving there about that time in 1980.
Yeah, so
that's an interesting take.
They, the things that, like I said, went on back then. Now, when it's highlighted and you have a case where they find corruption and things like that, yeah, it causes other people to kind of check themselves on what they may be doing and realize that people are paying attention to this type of stuff, whether it's politicians or informants that are, doing things with cops and then turning on the cops and, doing probably doing the right thing and notifying them that, hey, there's corrupt police officers back in the day.
Yeah. So becoming a cop in 98, you've done it all, as far as you said. How much different is the demand now for people that want those jobs versus when you started in 98?
So back in the 90s, you had 3,500 applicants for a single testing cycle. It was you had lines of people at Cashman Field or 601 East Fremont, used to be our old personnel building, wrapped around Fremont Street with people wanting the job. May of 2021, we had, I believe it was 254 applicants for the job. It's
So less than a tenth of what it was.
huge decline. Even from 2019, May of that same year, we had 1,600 applicants. It just, post George Floyd and all that stuff, and the rhetoric against cops and politicians jumping on the bandwagon saying the police profession needs to be defunded and all that nonsense, that caused people to second guess it and go, listen, I may want to go out there and do the right thing, but these folks are looking for reasons to put me in prison when I just make a mistake, and so that caused a sharp decline in our profession for sure.
How much is because of that? How have the hiring standards changed over the years? I would guess almost because that you have to have much higher cognitive, you're probably trying to hire much smarter people. For sure. I had to guess.
Yeah, having there's a push across the country, people having a college degree, being a more educated workforce is probably a better workforce in their minds. The knuckle dragger,
right,
knock the door down, punch in the face guy is old guard, and what they want now are people that are thinkers that can de-escalate and talk their way through something rather than having to use force.
Right. What do you think of that? So I've heard kind of mixed bag from different police friends of mine. I come from a cop family. Like my grandfather was deputy chief of the city I grew up in. My dad would have become a cop, but he had terrible eyes, so he became a teacher in jail. So he taught high school in a young offender center. All my uncles are cops, like all of them. So I didn't really get in trouble when I was a kid.
Yeah, but that's in Canada.
RCMP?
Just arresting people
no,
for
city.
Okay.
Yeah, just arresting people for stealing syrup. How hard is that?
Yeah, but when they're big barrels of syrup,
And I'm sure they're like,
very difficult.
Oh, jeepers, you got us. Just throw the cuffs on.
He
No
thinks
problem, sir.
Wisconsin is like, he's going to go to Toronto one day and be like, oh my God,
It's not even close.
But anyway, so
It's
I've
my
heard,
dream. You let me live it however I want.
I've heard, and I have some police officers who are clients. One of my clients started his own body-worn camera system and trains. You probably know him. But anyway, I've heard kind of different perspectives on this, that the left as usual, and I have things I vacillate back and forth. I'm a lawyer. I look at things in a very
Flip-flopper is what we call them in today's politics.
When the facts change, my opinion changes. I just need facts. But at the end of the day, I've heard a lot of police, they talk about the defund the police thing was the absolute worst way you could have ever structured that. The refund the police or allocate in a way where cops are great, except in some circumstances, I don't even think cops want to be there, right? You get some guy who's, do you need the same, because the same solution shouldn't be for every question, right? So cops oftentimes, if there was a part of the police force that only did traffic or something, or whatever, some solution where the people that, are going to be doing this one thing aren't going to be the people that will put you in prison, right? Like an administrative tax collection service, whatever it's called, or get photo radar or whatever. I know the police union, there's going to be pushback on some of this stuff, which makes sense. But if I was a cop, I'd hate to always have to be responding to like some boyfriend yelling at his girlfriend. I know it can escalate. I know it can all these things, but it's like if there was more kind of isolated task forces or some sharper instruments that can be used for different, you got a hammer for when you need a hammer and you got a scalpel when you need a scalpel.
Yeah, let me sum up his question real quick. He thinks that there should be a police force to collect taxes and you shouldn't have to go to calls where men are yelling at women. Does that pretty much sum it up?
That's all I got.
That's all I heard.
So we're taxing folks as much as we can.
We already are anyway, right? I go to court and I fight it for people and whatever. It's an administrative joke.
Yeah.
It's an administrative joke. And I don't necessarily think that the same people that are taking down real issues, like, one of our friends' brothers in SWAT. And I mean, that job is way different than the guy giving tickets. So if the guy giving tickets, right, wasn't the guy that they thought could pull them up for a warrant and take them away with that,
But I think the limited resources, probably you have to kind of layer them over everything now.
I don't know. I just think that there's probably solutions that maybe we haven't come up yet. And I'm wondering if you guys have a perspective.
So it's interesting you say that. And in theory, if you said, hey, if John Q. Citizen in this white Prius with some lights on, it's pulling cars over, that no one's going to take it as a threat, and so they're not going to shoot it out with them, right?
One of the kind of as a
yes. So here's where that goes awry is when that guy in the Prius does get shot and killed, and the guy in the car was wanted for a murder and is pulled over by what he believes is any form of authority, and so that's when it goes south. Let's talk about the mentally ill, right? Same issue. Most of the mentally ill, truly mentally ill people, don't have a cognitive thought process on what's going on around them. Someone has to be there to make that scene safe. And so when all this defund the police and in some weird way, I understood what some people were saying.
Right.
What they were saying is to what you said, is there a different way to police? There is a different way to police, and it's over-investing in what we do. It's not taking you two officers off the street. It's saying, let me put Steve with you two officers. And when you make the scene safe and we have that person that now needs the help they need, Steve can step in. And that's where I think you can have, you're right. Cops don't like dealing with a mentally ill homeless man. They wish they could help them. We don't have the resources for it.
That's a different issue.
We're still humans at the end of the day, and we'd love to help everyone we come across. But it's got to be in a safe manner. And when people, some legislators are talking about, if we have a domestic violence, send in the peer counselor until the peer counselor gets stabbed in the throat.
Sure.
And so, having extra help, none of us are against at all. Right. But that's the conversation is how do we add to the scene to make the scene safe for that person to come in and offer the services that are necessary. Right. And that's what we support. That type of stuff we do support.
I'm an ROI guy.
For sure.
I'm an economist, so everybody always has opinions on stuff. I say, whatever those are, I'm an ROI guy. Do cops want to be pulling people over for small amounts of personal drugs? I mean,
yes.
It's one of those things. There's things where I tend to think a lot of these things are health problems. Personally, I think those are mental health problems a lot, and I think that needs funding as well. So I'm not against funding all these things. I don't want to be spending money on stuff that's wasted. I want things to go into that. Right, I want there to be facilities that people can go if they have treatment drug issues. I don't need, a single officer going into a place and putting their own life in. I'm okay with, investing in our community, right, with realistic, options. And I'm just wondering if there's a better way to do it.
Well, I think part of it, for me anyway, as I look at it, is the problem is the people's perception of what they can now get away with in dealing with the police. I mean, I could give you two great examples of that. Number one, we were just in New Orleans. It's a shit show. I mean, it feels genuinely unsafe, and like all the carjackings and all the crazy stuff that's happening. And it's like 13, 14-year-old kids doing armed robbery, shooting each other. I mean, it's bad. And it's really bad to the point where the mayor's about to get recalled. Hopefully that'll happen.
My Uber driver said, don't even call the police.
Yeah, it said don't even bother. And then, but also, you look at what happened in Austin this weekend. I don't know if you saw that, where they were doing street racing or something, and the cops pulled up on it, and like a mob came at the cop, and the cop was like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. So, I mean, at what point, and what do you think drove the mentality that all of a sudden that is okay?
Politicians telling them that it's okay. And it's funny, you bring up, yelling at people, right? Yeah. Police officers are getting yelled at every day, cursed at in the face, called names that you would not call some people that you absolutely hate. And they're told there's not much you can do about it. You just got to take it. But look at a basketball game. If someone calls LeBron James a bad name from the sideline, they throw him out of the arena. They revoke their tickets forever. They can never come back to the state. Well, isn't it free speech? I mean, if the cops can deal with it, which we shouldn't, and I don't think LeBron should deal with it either, there should be some standards set, but the folks say, hey, look at Maxine Waters when all this crazy stuff was going on. Hey, if there's a Trump supporter out there, get in their face.
Oh, yeah.
Approach them. Make them uncomfortable. Well, if people said that about other folks in the other side of the aisle, you'd be saying, oh, well, they're attacking them. How dare they? They're anti. And so when you look at the police, and I go back to back when my father was a police officer, and a police officer stopped a hardcore gangbanger, they showed them respect. They showed the police officers very seldom. And if they didn't, the OGs of the group would grab them. Why? Because they didn't want the pressure in there on their groups that they would put. Now, you see an officer stopping someone or using force on somebody, and very minimal, to handcuff them or whatever, 15 phones right in their face. They feel that they can get as close as they want.
Oh, yeah.
There's no real law talking about distance in our state, about how close you can be. It's just your
Personal
perspective. Yeah. Well, that's a open-ended, hey, what is it to you, and so I think that is where we got to get back to, is talking to, truthfully, is talking to our kids and talking to our young adults and saying, listen, there's folks that are out there that you need to respect. Now, if they don't show you respect, and this is a campaign that we've tried to talk to people about, it's comply then complain. You don't like what the cops are doing. You think they stopped you illegally. You think they did this. The time to solve that is not sitting in the driver's seat of the car or in front of the police car. It's later. Hey, I'll comply. Do what you need to do, officer. I don't agree with what you're doing. I think this is garbage, but I'm going to comply with you.
Well, it's like you look at what happens, and it's like the shooting that just happened not too long ago. That was terrible. I mean, granted, it's terrible, but it all starts with, the story starts with subject ran, subject fled, subject did what, like, just sit there and deal with it, and then be courteous, be kind. And it's not always going to go. I mean, obviously there's been situations where it doesn't always go the way that it should that way, but I think you got a much better chance of dealing with the situation in a positive outcome if you just comply a little bit.
Whether you agree or not, though, the perspective in the voice is that you can say that because you've never had any experiences. You didn't grow up being profiled or whatever. I was talking to my friend the other day, and it was a totally random thing. We were literally working out beside Colin Kaepernick. He was in our gym, and he was saying something. He was like, yeah, well, he's a super nice guy. I've never really heard him talk about anything racial, but he's an African-American guy. And he goes, I've been pulled over. I've counted 70 times. He goes, and it was this issue, that issue, this issue, that issue. And he goes, I sold this car to my girlfriend. She's been pulled over 3 times, like in 4 years or something. And I had it for a couple of years, pulled over 70 times. He's like, because the area I was in, or whatever. And he was going, that's what that guy was talking about. It was an off the conversation. I was just like, I understand people feel sometimes they're not heard. So I think what this comes down to is having that conversation with people without having you're a fucking leftist retard. You're a Trump ass, whatever it is. If we're going to continue to do that, there's no hope for anyone. That is not the way. So what it is conversations. I think that's probably the first step in good policing, right?
No doubt about it. And when you talk about the evolution of police work, the community-oriented policing model is one of the biggest things that have shaped police work in current society, realizing that it is a partnership. Yeah. Take the worst neighborhood here in Vegas. There's still good people that live in that neighborhood that have been a fabric of that community for many, many years. And they don't like that criminal element in there as much as the police, as much as everybody else doesn't. And so you talk to those people. You don't walk in and say, I'm going to generalize that this entire area is all shit.
That's right. Yeah.
You walk in and realize, just like police officers, the group as the whole is just fine.
It's fine.
I got to find the ones that are making this area bad, because guaranteed those folks don't want you in here either.
It's like the Taliban isn't welcome in a lot of parts of Afghanistan.
Yeah.
There's things where I don't want this.
Yeah.
Most people across the board, right, want the same few things. They want to have some kids. They want some security. They want some money. They want to eat.
Ride on a Mardi Gras float.
Ride on a Mardi Gras float.
3 hours
no, it's just,
Grinch.
Of joy.
No.
Yeah.
You know where the Taliban would probably be welcome? Chili's.
See, I knew he wasn't.
I've reverted back to it. I've reverted back to it. Damn it. Sorry.
But to that point, I completely agree with you. There's this thing in TikTok social media culture where that one thing means we exaggerate the whole. We average to the exception. And when you think about policing on a day-to-day amount of interactions that go off in the United States of America with 330 million people or whatever, there are a lot of arrests, there are a lot of police interactions, and 99.999% of them go off without a hitch.
For sure.
Without a hitch. So,
well, it doesn't get any clicks if you post the guy taking the ticket and signing it and driving off. That doesn't get any likes or clicks.
But we can't be hyperbolic about all this stuff. We have to actually talk about in an honest way what the things we want to improve on are. We can't just say wipe it clean. That's why I'm not saying that I have a perspective. I don't know. I haven't studied policing or justice. I'm a lawyer. Yeah. The things I think about, have that perspective. And I think you get some lawyers to talk to some, district attorneys, and you get police officers involved, you get people from community. And when you have a dialogue going, most people are willing to listen as long as it's not an obnoxious conversation that's full of, ad hominem vitriol where I'm spitting horrible things. This is what you do. You've done this.
It's talking with, not at.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. And you look at our sheriff, Joe Lombardo, and now Kevin. I think one of the reasons you don't see some of the crazy things that you see across the country is how invested they are in the different communities with their multicultural councils. And they're talking to these folks that are in the fabric of those communities saying, hey, let's have these back and forth, like you said, conversation. It's not me talking at you, telling you how you got to treat the police and we're perfect and you do not.
Yeah.
It's a mutual thing and understanding.
I got to tell you, I feel pretty lucky here. I feel Las Vegas as a whole is pretty safe. I feel like it's a safe place. I don't feel like, I mean, if you go to you can feel now Seattle doesn't feel safe to me. You can feel some of these areas where defund was huge and it doesn't feel like for example, did you feel safe in the French Quarter at all on that Friday? I mean,
I'm nuts, John. I've been to Africa 3 times.
No.
I don't feel unsafe.
When we got trapped, when you guys want to walk down Bourbon at 10 o'clock on Saturday, stupid me for letting it happen. I could see the fear in your wife's eyes.
Well, my wife,
she was terrified.
I had her walking down in the souks of Marrakesh and side streets. Now, I'm 6'3", 270 pounds. I'm not necessarily. I don't have a perspective of being worried.
But here's the difference. If she gets harmed in New Orleans, if something happens in New Orleans, she's going to get hurt. If something happens in Marrakesh, you're going to get 50, 60 camels out of her. We already talked about this. She's got blonde hair. I mean, you're going to get
like an insurance policy.
Dude. Yeah, exactly. They're not going to mess with you, and you're probably going to get something out of it from
Don't you have listeners in Morocco, John?
I think we're huge in Morocco. Huge in Morocco. So
no, but
I'm talking about not the good people of Morocco. No. Like he said, the bad people of Morocco.
But Las Vegas still has this kind of. There's a lot of transient people here, so I've never felt unsafe, but I don't feel like there's necessarily that much of a community either that's building up towards everybody taking ownership. And like I said, to your point, I don't care how much I agree with you. If you tell me that you need to do this, if somebody points their finger at me and tells me what I need to do, I shut off, even if they're right. So do you have a lot of those things kind of going on right now? Roundtables?
Oh, for sure. I mean, between all the area commands with their leadership and their officers and realizing it's better to get buy-in than it is to order folks around. Listen, in police work, there's still a time for, I got to make you do something. But most of the time from, represent our officers in use of force cases and things like that, it's very last resort. We're not as triggered to want to go after somebody at a drop of a hat. My father's back in the day, and even when I started, it was ask, tell, make. Yeah. That was it. Now it's, come on, but again, there comes a point where, sir, just give me your driver's license. And then that's going to end. And that's where, people kind of think that, I'm not going to let you sit in a car for 10 minutes while we debate over whether I can get your insurance or registration. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm pulling you out. I tell cops this all the time. Never make threats that you can't follow through on. As a lawyer, how many times have you at least heard the story? A cop came to our house for a domestic. All we were doing was arguing. They said, if I come back, someone's going to jail. I tell these kids, well, for what? They can argue all they want. They don't put hands on each other. There's no arrest for verbal domestic violence. Yeah. Stop saying that stuff. Right. Try and figure out why I keep coming back. Yep. Maybe you two aren't good together. Maybe someone should leave for the night. But those are things that there's still a point where the officers have to do their job and they have to, they can't allow that type of contempt to continue. But by and large, these kids nowadays, I say kids because I remember there was
everyone's a kid. That trust me, I'm with you.
Everybody's a kid.
Everybody's a kid.
I love it when I say to my girls, I'm like, I don't feel old. You and I, we talked. You do jiu-jitsu, I do jiu-jitsu, and so I feel like I'm engaged.
We almost made it one whole episode.
No, we're about to go in deep on this.
No.
Because I actually have a very serious question about that with you.
Training in police jiu-jitsu, I was Chad Line. We talked about Chad. Chad and I went back and to Jacksonville last summer and taught in Jacksonville some police jiu-jitsu stuff, and that's sweeping the nation, and it should because it's reducing officer injury, it's reducing citizen injury, it's reducing use of force encounters because you're ending things a lot quicker. You're not causing distance and allowing things to happen. You're getting close and you're locking people up and you're doing it without hurting them.
But you as an officer, let's say you're out on the street, how could you ever be like, I'm going to get into an interaction with people? I do the thing and I still get nervous before a match.
Sure.
I do it. Like, I know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
Not well.
Better than the person, for sure.
To 95% of dudes out there, I'm more than capable of doing what I need to do, right? Mm-hmm. But that's me, and I'm a blue belt. I'm like a 10-year blue belt because I'm a bit of a sandbagger, but it's a different story. But it's a long story. But anyway, so we go do that. If I was a cop, I would be like, I'm not taking the job till I'm a purple belt.
Yeah. So in Jacksonville, it's really cool. Their program is when you graduate the academy, you will have done enough jiu-jitsu that you will be a blue belt when you graduate.
Bare minimum, right?
It's a great program that, we keep trying to talk to many people about instituting. Mesa, Arizona is locked in with Chad Lyman's C4C, PJJ. He has a lot of affiliates.
He's a stud, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Chad Lyman.
53 years old. Right now he's got no cartilage in his knee, and him and I were rolling last week and just kicks the shit out of me. And, but it's funny, and my nephew's a young police officer. He's a good shape kid, 6'2", 180, 185, lifts all the time, all that stuff. And here's old fat Uncle Steve. And we brought him up to the office one day and we trained, and a minute in, he's dead. He's gasping for air. And it's just all body weight, need a belly, just putting some pressure on the kid to let him know, hey, this isn't going to go how you think.
Good old Uncle Steve can still squash you.
Yeah.
Good old Uncle Steve's going to fold you in clothes that you're still in.
And I tell that story. I told, him and I talk, and I tell it to cops nowadays. I go, that should scare the hell out of you. If a guy like me can outpace you easily, your whole thought process of, I just see red when I get mad. The world better look out. Yeah. I'll kill everyone. You ain't going to do nothing.
No, you're not.
You think you're going to do something.
You don't know how to
fight. And none of it works. You're right.
It's like Rogan said, because when he was a kickboxer, he's like, I was a kickboxer. I was fighting at a state level, Olympic level, Taekwondo. I go to my first jiu-jitsu class, and I was a helpless baby.
No doubt about
it. You could do whatever you wanted to me, and I was totally helpless. I thought I was this great fighter, and I was fighting at a high level.
Guy who works with Chad and I, Bob Glowinski, from Wisconsin, trained with Duke Rufus. Very good Muay Thai, very good stand-up. Same issue, though. He's like, man, I started jiu-jitsu, and I just realized what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And if it could stand the whole time, that's great.
Sure.
But we know most encounters end up getting into a clinch or going to the ground. But
as an officer, too, I would think that's true. You're not going to stand and square up with a guy either. No, sit there and box with a guy.
Listen, the optics of that don't look good, right? As normal citizens, do you want to see
match with a cop? No.
An officer in a Muay Thai stance and throwing head kicks and no, that's not what
unless
you
it's
want.
a fireman, but we'll get to that later.
Unless it's a fireman, yeah.
It's a fireman.
They're usually holding short for us, waiting for us to clear the scene.
And there you go.
Usually waiting at the bank to cash their checks from
so I have a question.
triple overtime.
So friend of the show is Tim Larkin. Sasha Larkin is his wife. Tim, when violence is the answer, a lot of hand-to-hand technique is the stuff that he teaches. Is that valuable, or is that something? Or you guys you're grimacing me now? I'm dying to hear what you say about this.
Any training is
any training.
But I believe when we talk about hand-to-hand encounters and stuff like that in our profession, it's not optimal. It's not our end goal. If we're in a physical encounter, our end goal, we got to get you in handcuffs.
Just subdue you.
It isn't to knock you out. It isn't to do. There's a lot of things we can't do that we could do in the street if we weren't cops.
Sure.
And so that whole mantra of learn this strike, this throat punch, and this pressure point. No, I mean
it's not useful.
We've got to. It could be, but it's
for special forces, not for police.
For us to facilitate the mission that we have, it's got to be. I got to just control you, and if I can control another human. All the better. He's not hurt. I'm not hurt. There's a good chance he's going to feel that submission. That I'm done. I'm locked up.
Yeah.
Let me just go ahead and comply. And then what do we have? We have no use of force report.
Yeah.
No medical person rolling to the scene.
Textbook.
Person goes to jail, and that's it. And
that's it.
Did you see that shoplifting at the it was like a Walmart?
How long ago?
This is a fairly recent video I saw. I don't know how old it could be.
Here?
No, it's
okay.
It's kind of viral. This officer was taking down this person smashed in a window inside a Walmart, and the cop was there. I guess they were doing something crazy out of the scene. And the officer engages in like some pretty sweet jiu-jitsu, gets in a triangle, takes an arm, and this person's resisting and kicking and spitting and freaking out. And it was pretty slick.
Yeah.
And I was going, that guy is the base level of training I would want to have. And it was smooth, and he did it with his whole gear on. I go, that guy's probably a real killer.
That's we had an incident here. I want to say it was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. We had an officer in uniform, full uniform fight with a guy, and same thing. Working, he ends up getting top position. He gets him out. He spaces out. He just kind of tires the guy out. Guy moving around, thinking he's going to buck him off. He doesn't, and he rides him out. And in the end, the guy was gassed and took him into custody. And I think that's what. Jiu-jitsu really will start teaching people. Listen, you're not going to throw people into a Kimura in the middle of the street while I'm trying to arrest them. But I can close the distance, and I can get a solid body lock, and I can get a takedown, and I can get in a good dominant position, and I can hold that position and wait for backup so we can get you into custody safely, or I can get you to give up and I can get you into custody safely.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, let's ask a different question. I'm sorry, Chris. We're gonna move on from this. Thank you for joining us for Jiu-Jitsu Weekly with your host, Chris Connell. No,
I'm having a blast.
I know you are. But unfortunately, a large percentage of our real listener base doesn't practice Jiu-Jitsu. So I have a question, and it's this. And it may be a varied along political lines, whatever it is, but what is the opinion, or what is the general opinion of police when it comes to guns right now?
As far as what?
As far as just guns in the street, legal guns, carry guns. You know, you see that's such a hot button within our politics, the long guns, trying to make those illegal. What is the general opinion of the guys that really have to face them down more than anybody else on those assault weapons or everything else?
They are supportive of law-abiding, gun-carrying folks.
Okay.
You know, when there was when Steve Sisolak was trying to make maybe a push on mag capacity and some certain firearms here in the state, my cops were blowing me up. Steve, what are we doing about this? What are we doing about this? Because the problem is not the lawful, sane-minded gun owner.
Sure.
It is the criminal element. It is the mentally incapacitated element. That those are the problems. And so, you know, look at Chicago. There's laws out the yin-yang on the books in Chicago to be a gun-free zone. And we have people getting murdered daily with weapons.
Day.
It's not a make it illegal. Let's start enforcing what we have. You're a bad guy with a gun. Let's make sure you go to prison. You're not sitting there on the streets to victimize other people. The issue, though, for our folks, here is an open carry state. We come across weapons all the time, and it took training for our guys to understand, like, okay, it doesn't always mean because you have a gun on your hip that you're a bad person.
Bad guy.
Now, I have to be vigilant. I have to know it's there, and I have to tell you, sir, I know you have a firearm
Please
on
keep
you.
your hand away from it.
Keep your hands up on the steering wheel. You got it, But to what we talked about, the split-second decision now, when all of a sudden you're very clear on those instructions and that person starts to move their hand, now things change. You could be the best gun-owning, law-abiding citizen, but making actions like that cause a normal person. That's what people forget. Cops aren't robots.
Normal people.
They're normal. They have human error. They have human feelings. They see things in the half a second you moved your hand from the steering wheel to the center console.
Yeah.
They're thinking of their wife, their husband, their kids.
Sure.
Am I going to make it through the night? All that flashes right then and there. And so trying to tell people, you got to be perfect in every scenario. It's not going to happen.
I was just getting my hero sandwich.
Yeah.
Do you think that? Do you think the job will ever become desirable again, or do you think that it's going to continue to decline?
Police work's a calling at the end of the day.
Good answer.
What I'd like to see more of in this city is, and I know this for a fact, that you look at New York, look at Boston, look at places where families stay, right? Mm-hmm. Police families. My grandfather was on a job. My father was on. What happens here most of the time is, and it's shocking because we have such great tax structure here that we don't have state tax and all that. A lot of our cops leave this state when they retire instead of raising their family and maybe their young sons and daughters to take up the mantle as that family unit of police. So now we're just hoping that we can recruit outsiders to come in.
It's a lot of professions, I think, here.
Yeah,
I think people leave, and I don't get it.
I think
awesome.
I think as we add sports, as we become more of a metropolitan city, that you can really lay down roots, and it's becoming less and less about the gaming industry here. Mm-hmm. I think you'll start to hopefully see some of that.
There's got to be a real big highlight on the suburbs of Vegas. I mean, we're all probably in the same boat. Out of town friends that really don't know where you live. Oh man, it must be great living close to the Strip.
I'm the one guy that actually kind of lives near the Strip, totally randomly.
See, I'm by Mount Charleston. Yeah. I'm like, listen, these are just homes. These are just people. Yeah. There's no hustle and bustle of the Strip and worrying about people with handbills, hands out, and all. Well,
I know a couple of years ago, I think Henderson was ranked one of the safest cities in America to live in. Is it still that? It's still that way?
It's up there. Henderson's a good spot.
Good old Hendo.
When I moved here, the city of Henderson had 2 murders.
Yeah.
I was like, where I'm from in Canada, we were the murder capital of Canada.
And conveniently, he says he moved here just before it happened, or just after it happened.
I moved here to get away from the crime of Saskatchewan. But
I'm telling you, they get all hopped up on those Tim Hortons and bad things happen.
This guy, I got to cut him off because he's going to keep talking about maple syrup. So, what's this police football?
Yes.
About? Since he was talking about sports, I was reminded of
that's a good segue.
So we a little backstory on what the game is. So in 1974 to 1983, they played this game. They played it at Sam Boyd. Police versus Fire was actually a very big game. Commissioner Kirkpatrick from the county commission remembered every game. And so when it started, their goal was that the hospital was not UMC, was not the county hospital, had a different name. And a fireman's daughter was on dialysis. And the only place she could get dialysis was in Utah. So they played this game to raise enough money to buy a dialysis machine for the local hospital.
Oh, wow.
Through charitable contributions, they ended up buying 3. So every year they were finding a new charity to play for. We found out that eventually more hands started coming out from people that were giving free stuff. Hey, we'll cover the cost of your program. We'll do your uniforms. Now it was, hey, we heard you're making money. Actually, we're going to charge you for this and we're going to charge you for that. So come 1983, they were almost making nothing for the event. And so they just stopped. Last year, I'm at my office and my assistant knows that I have some crazy ass ideas. I'm like the guy with the little bubbles that just go off with a thought. Yeah, exactly. And,
It's a solid sound
that
effect
was
right
good.
there.
That was very good.
You're like, yes, you're like Fred now.
Like Michael Winslow from Police Academy.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was solid.
When we do our next podcast for the PPA, I'm going to try and institute.
Just have you just there to do that one thing.
So we were looking. Is there a leak? A leak? No. So we have a charity, and our charity is very specific. It's the Law Enforcement Assistance Fund. If an officer's killed in the line of duty, we pay for their children and their surviving spouses, college, room, board, food, tuition, the whole 9 yards. In state. If they go out of state, we pay the equivalent to in state. We also buy them presents at Christmas, birthdays, weddings, graduation from high school, graduation from college. That is the focus of that charity. And it's unfortunate because as an officer passes in the line of duty, and this is, I try not to be slight of our Metro Police department, but they kind of lose contact. You know, hey, it's an out of sight, out of mind. Sure. You know, we honor you once a year, but that's about it. So we're looking at new ideas for our charity. So last year at the end of February, I'm looking at a poster, and it's the old football game. And my assistant was off that day, and so she came into work the next day, and I said, hey, I know you got 50 million events that we got going. You're about to throw a football game. And she goes, what the hell do you mean? I said, we're throwing a football game, and we're going to raise all the funds, and we're going to give it to some charities. So we put the charities together. It was ours. It was the Professional Firefighters of Nevada. They're building a memorial wall up in Carson for them. They don't have one. We played for the Children's Heart Foundation. And after all of our fundraising efforts and all that, we were able to give Bonanza High School, my alma mater, $10,000 check for their football program, as well as about $10,000 worth of gym equipment from Dick's Sporting Goods.
Oh, that's great. Is Dick's a part of it? Is there
So they worked with us on that arm from last year with the donation for the school or for the football program. Hopeful that they get involved this year. Our main sponsors were Station Casinos, UFC, VGK. Those were the bigger groups last year that just said, listen, in a moment's notice, we'll get on board and we'll help you out.
What about the Raiders?
It was tough last year. You know, it was such a small window of time. We played the game May 7th. We really got things amped up like around April. And so they sent some cheerleaders out and did what they could. But this year, there's a lot bigger involvement from a lot of different people in the community.
Hey, this isn't just like a flag football two-hand touch, is it?
No.
Tell me about it, because I was watching a clip of it.
If you go to LVPPA football on YouTube, you'll pull up a clip. You know, when I put this game out, I didn't know if we even had a real team. The firemen
It's
are
like
always,
longest yard.
but yeah.
Oh,
you know?
that's it? No, it's longest yard.
It's the firemen are always in good shape. We always think they're athletic. They beat our ass in baseball, hockey. That just always happens. So I was afraid I bit off more than I could chew. I sent out an email to my membership, and I got about 70 responses. College game film. I had a linebacker from the Ravens, a left tackle from the Jets.
Yeah.
My quarterback, Sean Riley,
Randy
played
Moss came and joined the force for a one-day contract.
Close, very close. Sean Riley was a quarterback at UNLV, 6'4", can read, throw a defense. I mean, it was. So we put this crew together, and I'm like, holy shit, you got a
You got a real team.
This is like a borderline semi-pro football team. And the the firemen did not have a borderline semi-pro football team, and
But Call of Duty, I hear they're pretty good.
yeah, making chili and all the good stuff like that. I mean, listen, the calendars, they beat us all day, but
Chris has got 3 of them hanging in his office.
you don't want
my face cut out every single month.
you don't want a calendar with this on it. You want the firemen. But it was a great time. We put about 3,000 people in Bonanza High School Stadium. They were coming in at halftime, pouring in there for the game to come watch and support it.
Well, I think you could fill up Allegiant if it was promoted.
We Allegiant was on the table for this year, and conversations with Sandra Morgan with the Raiders, they were on board, but we needed some hard commitments, timing wise, and it was just I put them on the spot far too late to use Allegiant. So we're pivoting, and through Lorenzo Fertitta and Dana White, we're going to end up playing the game at Bishop Gorman.
It's just a slightly smaller version of Allegiant
Stadium.
Just a bit.
It is.
Yeah, so we're really excited to have the folks on board that we do helping us this year. It's going to be a big event.
Love that. Somebody wants to get involved with that. They want to buy tickets. They want to come. How do they do that?
They can contact us at the LVPPA. They can call up there. They can go to our website.
What's the website?
LVPPA.com.
LVPPA.com.
We'll be doing a lot of PR in the community with different forums. They'll see things. We've got the PPA owns 15 electronic billboards for ads and that, so we'll be putting stuff out there as it moves forward. But if someone wants to become a sponsor for the game, just feel free to reach out to us, and we can tell you how to get on board.
Love that. Awesome. Well, Steve, man, thanks so much for coming by. It was a fascinating conversation. And yeah, dude,
he's got warrants.
Yeah.
So it's okay if you ask any of the guys that work with me, they'll tell you I don't carry a gun, I don't carry handcuffs.
See, there you go. See, he's one of the cops you were talking about.
Usually Chad Lyman's around me. He does all that for me, so I don't worry about it.
That's good stuff. Well, counselor, if they want to find you for some odd reason, how would they find you?
Connelaw.com, 702 Connell.
Connelaw.com. And of course, if you're watching us on YouTube, give us a like, give us a subscribe. If whatever podcast service you're listening to, make sure you give us 4 stars. And if you're listening to someplace you can comment on what you'd like to hear more about. Jiu-jitsu or syrup? I mean, let's just settle this once and for all.
Or jiu-jitsu with syrup. I mean, that.
Hey, look, you do have ideas.
I think I saw that at a strip club in Windsor once. And with that, we'll wrap it up. See you next time, everybody. Hey, it's John Gafford. If you want to catch up more and see what we're doing, you can always go to thejohngafford.com. where we'll share any links that things we talked about on the show, as well as links to the YouTube where you can watch us live. And if you want to catch up with me on Instagram, you can always follow me at @thejohngafford. I'm here. Give me a shout.